I moved to this small town about a year ago. I was 35, trying to start fresh after losing my husband in a car accident. It felt like a good place to heal. The town was quiet, with cute little shops and houses. I rented a small 2-bedroom home and threw myself into my job as a social worker. One evening, after dinner, I was washing the dishes. Everything felt normal until I heard it, a child's laughter coming from the house next door. I stopped and listened. Then I heard a parent scolding the child. It felt strange to hear laughter at that hour. I thought about going over to introduce myself, but something held me back. Weeks passed, and I saw that same child playing alone in the yard. They tossed a ball or swung on the swing set. I never saw any parents. My curiosity grew, but there was an unsettling feeling about it. I tried to brush it off as my mind playing tricks on me, but every time I glanced out the window, I felt drawn to that child. One rainy afternoon, I stopped at a local cafe. As I waited for my coffee, I picked up an old newspaper. There was a story about a child born 10 years ago in this town. The child had vanished. My stomach dropped as I read the description. It matched the child I had seen playing outside. The laughter echoed in my mind like a warning bell. I became more paranoid in the weeks that followed. I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. At night, I dreamt of that child, a shadowy figure that tugged at my heart. I didn't want to believe what I found out, but I felt like I was chasing ghosts. Then one night I stepped outside. It was so quiet, almost too quiet. I looked over at the neighbor's yard, and there it was, the child, standing in the shadows, just staring at me. My heart raced. I felt cold. I blinked, and they were gone. Did I just imagine it? But that laughter came again, soft and haunting. I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. I thought, why was I seeing this child? My curiosity pushed me, but I felt fear crawl over my spine. One night I went for a walk, hoping to clear my mind. I passed by the neighbor's yard and saw the child again, standing still. My heart thudded in my chest. As I watched, they turned slowly to look at me. Their eyes were dark, and they smiled, but the smile felt wrong. I stumbled back, haunted by that smile. It twisted deep in my gut. I ran home. That night was the worst. I lay in bed listening to the soft laughter echoing in the stillness of the night. I felt trapped in a nightmare. I thought maybe I should leave it alone, that I had dug too deep into something I wasn't ready to confront. But the laughter stayed with me, echoing in my dreams, forcing me to wonder about the truth behind the child born 10 years ago. What if that laughter held a darker truth? I couldn't stop thinking about it. I don't know if I ever will. The next day I felt restless. I couldn't shake the memory of that twisted smile, nor could I ignore the urge to learn more. Maybe if I understood what was happening, I could silence the laughter that haunted me. I decided to head to the library. I needed to dig deeper into the story of the missing child. Surely there must be more information out there. The moment I walked in, I felt a strange heaviness in the air. The librarian, an older woman with kind eyes, looked at me as I approached the desk. "I'm looking for any information on a child who went missing here about 10 years ago," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Her expression shifted slightly, something between concern and interest. She nodded and guided me to the local history section. I scanned through books and binders, searching for anything that could give me clarity. Most of the sections were filled with innocuous details about the town's founding, but I pressed on. After an hour, I found a small folder tucked away in a corner marked Unresolved Cases. Inside were articles and reports about the missing child, a boy named Jacob. He vanished without a trace, and the search efforts had turned up nothing. My heart sank as I read more. Jacob was reported missing after his mother had a mental breakdown. The photos they had displayed showed a bright, smiling boy. I shivered as I delved deeper. The articles hinted at rumors that followed the disappearance, sightings of a child that didn't belong. People claimed they'd seen him playing alone in the woods and even in various neighborhoods. My skin prickled as I thought about the child I had observed. I was determined to connect the dots. Suddenly I froze. That old newspaper I had read in the cafe, the one that described the boy, also mentioned a family that had moved away shortly after Jacob's disappearance. Their last name was the same as my neighbor's. My breath caught in my throat. Could this child be tied to that family? I headed back home, my heart racing, my mind spinning with questions. What had I stumbled upon? The laughter echoed in my head and panic began to creep back in. As evening fell, I found myself watching the neighbor's yard. With every passing moment, dread settled deeper into my bones. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was going to happen. Then I noticed it. Movement in the shadows. The child was back, standing at the edge of the yard. This time they weren't smiling. Their expression was blank, almost unsettlingly calm. I felt a chill run through me. I took a step back, my instincts screaming at me to run. But there was an urgency pulling me closer, as if the child was trying to communicate something. Just as I was about to turn away, I heard a whisper on the wind. My name. My heart raced, arms prickling with fear. I stumbled inside, locking the door behind me. I couldn't breathe. I turned to look out my window one last time, compelled to see if the child was still there. That's when I saw it. A figure standing next to the child, cloaked in darkness, watching me. Panic washed over me, and without thinking I grabbed my phone to call the police, but when I looked back out, the yard was empty. Fear set in. What was happening? I felt the walls closing in around me, and there was no escaping it now. The laughter, the smile, the figure. A storm was brewing, and I was right in the center of it. The night felt endless, and I couldn't sleep. Each creak in the house sounded like footsteps. I lay in bed clutching my phone, half expecting another whisper to beckon me from the shadows. My mind raced, replaying every detail from the library and the yard. As dawn broke, the fear hadn't lifted. I needed to know what I was dealing with. My instincts told me I wasn't looking at a simple case of a missing child. There was something more sinister here. I decided to pay a visit to the neighbor, the one linked to that family, and confront this head-on. I brushed my teeth and splashed cold water on my face, hoping it would wake me from this nightmare. Steeling myself, I pulled on a hoodie and stepped outside. The air was crisp, and despite the sun shining, a chill ran down my spine. I approached my neighbor's front door, heart pounding like a drum. Just before I knocked, I saw a figure moving in the backyard, a woman. I recognized her as my neighbor, Sarah. She was crouched down, digging in the dirt. "Sarah?" I called, my voice wavering slightly. She jerked up, her expression distant, then quickly masked by a polite smile. "Oh, hi, I wasn't expecting anyone," she replied, brushing the dirt from her hands. "Can I ask you something? It's about Jacob. I found some information that links your family to, well, his disappearance." My voice faltered at the end. Her expression changed. For a split second I saw something flash in her eyes, a flicker of recognition, fear maybe. "Jacob?" she echoed, her tone flat. "That's a long time ago. I'm not sure what you mean." I pressed on. "I mean, people are saying they've seen him, and I thought—" I hesitated, wondering if I was overstepping. "I thought maybe you could help me understand." Sarah hesitated, her brow furrowing. "I think you're mistaken. We moved here to start fresh, you know. We don't talk about the past." Suddenly I noticed movement again. It was the child, standing at the edge of the yard, just watching us. My stomach twisted. I turned back to Sarah, my voice barely a whisper. "Is that your child?" She looked over her shoulder and paled. "No," she said sharply. "They don't belong here." I took a step back, confusion mingling with fear. "What do you mean?" A strange tension filled the air, and Sarah's friendly demeanor dropped. "You need to leave this alone," she warned, her voice low. "You don't understand what you're getting into." I backed away slowly, suddenly aware of the looming figure in the distance. The child stood eerily still, not smiling, not moving. Whatever sense of safety I had vanished. I just wanted answers," I stammered, turning to leave, but Sarah grabbed my arm, her grip firm. "Answers come at a price. Be careful. They don't forget." I pulled away and ran back home, heart racing. Whatever was happening was spiraling out of control. Sarah's words echoed in my mind like a death knell. Once inside, I locked the door, shutting out the world. I couldn't stay here anymore. I had to find out who that child was and what they wanted. As I grabbed my phone to search for more information, the lights flickered. Then everything went dark. I stood in the pitch-black room, my heart pounding in my chest. The sudden darkness felt oppressive, pressing in on me. I fumbled for my phone, my fingers trembling as I tried to turn on the flashlight. The small beam flickered to life, revealing the familiar shapes of my living room. Shadows danced on the walls. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. "It's just a power outage," I told myself. "Nothing to worry about." But deep down, I knew this was more than just bad luck. I made my way to the front window, hoping to see lights in nearby houses. Instead, I was met with a quiet stillness. Not a single light glowed from any direction. My stomach churned. Usually this neighborhood was alive with sounds and lights, even at night. Suddenly a sound broke the silence. A soft tapping. My blood ran cold. It came from the back of the house. I set my phone down on the kitchen counter and crept toward the kitchen door, heart racing. I considered going back to my phone, but something urged me to confront whatever was out there. The tapping continued, rhythmic and deliberate. I reached for the doorknob, hand shaking. "Is someone there?" I called out, my voice wavering. Silence returned, thick and suffocating. I inched the door open, peeking out into the darkness. The yard stretched before me, empty. Just as I was about to step back inside, I caught a glimpse of movement at the edge of my yard. I squinted, and then I saw it, the child from earlier, standing there perfectly still, under the flickering light of the moon. "Why are you here?" I called out, my voice echoes in the night. The child didn't respond. They simply stared at me, their face in shadows. I felt the chill creep back into my bones. Suddenly a loud crack rang out from behind me. I spun around, the flashlight beam flickering wildly. The lights had come back on, illuminating the kitchen, but something was off. The air felt heavier, charged with an energy I couldn't explain. I turned back towards the door, but the child was gone. Panic surged through me. Where had they gone? I rushed to the living room, scanning for any sign of them. That's when I noticed something on the floor, small footprints leading from the door where I had just stood, across the tiles towards my hallway. They were damp and left a faint residue, like something was trailing behind. I followed the prints, my heart pounding. Each step felt like a countdown to something awful. At the end of the hallway, I reached my bedroom door, cracked slightly open. It seemed wrong, too familiar. Suddenly I remembered Sarah's warning. They don't forget. Taking a deep breath, I pushed the door open and stepped inside, my hands clammy. The room was empty, but I heard a whisper like a breeze had swept through, carrying a message I couldn't quite grasp. That's when I saw it, a small, tattered toy lying in the center of my bed. It looked exactly like the one I used to have, the one I lost when I was just a child. Confusion mingled with dread. What does this mean? I wondered aloud. I moved toward the bed, but as I reached for the toy, it vanished before my eyes. Someone's in the house. A chilling whisper echoed in my mind, and just then, the lights flickered again. The lights flickered one last time before plunging the room into darkness again. My heart raced as the dimness seemed to wrap around me like a heavy shroud. I gripped the doorframe, my mind racing. I had to stay calm, but panic clawed at my throat. "Get a hold of yourself," I whispered to reassure myself. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was here with me, watching. The whisper lingered in my ears, intensifying my fear. I turned to leave the room, but a low creaking sound made me stop. The floorboards groaned as if something heavy had just shifted. "Hello?" I called into the void, my voice barely above a whisper. No answer, just silence, thick and expectant. Summoning my courage, I reached for my phone, turning on the flashlight again. The beam cut through the darkness, providing a small island of light. I crept back into the hallway, the small footprints still visible on the tiles. They led deeper into the house, towards the living room. Something in my gut twisted as I moved further, each step echoing in my chest. The air smelled damp and heavy, and I couldn't shake the sensation of being followed. I rounded the corner into the living room, jumping at shadows that flickered across the walls. Then it hit me. The toy. The one that vanished. It was eerily familiar, but more than that, it felt significant somehow. I needed to know why it appeared. I had to find out if it meant anything. I shined my flashlight on the couch, the curtains, everywhere. But there was nothing. Just the oppressive silence of my home. As I scanned the room, I noticed the front door, slightly ajar. My breath caught. Had I left it that way? A sudden draft swept through, forcing the door to creak open wider. I approached cautiously, peering out into the night. The child. Where were they? Then, there it was again, the soft tapping, louder now, more insistent. It came from the other side of the door. My mouth was dry. I had to know who or what was out there. I stepped through the threshold, the cool night air wrapping around me like a cloak. Shadows danced around the edges of the lawn, and my heart pounded as I scanned the dark. That's when I noticed something on the ground, a crumpled piece of paper. I picked it up, the flashlight illuminating messy, childlike handwriting. "Help me. I can't go home." I shivered at the message. It hit me like a punch in the gut. I could feel leftover traces of childhood innocence combined with something darker. This wasn't just a message, it was a plea. Before I could process it fully, I sensed a presence behind me. My skin prickled as I wheeled around, the beam of light illuminating. Nothing. Then a figure emerged from the shadows at the edge of my yard. The child. Their small frame stood eerily still, fixated on me. My pulse raced as the realization struck. The whispers grew louder in my head. "They don't forget." I took a step back, the cold grip of fear stealing my breath. I had to decide, run back inside and lock the door, or find out what the child wanted. The choice loomed heavily over me. And then, everything went dark again. When the darkness enveloped me, I felt a prickling at the back of my neck. The sensation of being watched tightened my chest. Had I imagined the child? Or had they truly been standing there? I blinked, trying to adjust to the pitch blackness, pushing against the rising tide of panic. Just then, faint echoes of laughter floated through the air, a distant, happy sound that felt completely out of place. Confusion and unease washed over me. Was the child playing tricks on me, or was there truly something supernatural afoot? Gathering my resolve, I flicked the flashlight back to life. The beam wobbled as my hands shook, but it cut through the dark, revealing the yard. My breath quickened as I peered into the shadows. The child was gone, but I couldn't shake the feeling that they hadn't just vanished into thin air. "Are you all right?" I called out into the night. "Do you need help?" There was only silence in response. It was the sort of silence that wrapped around you, heavy and foreboding, making the air feel thick. I scanned the ground for the crumpled note, but it was nowhere to be found. Had I dropped it when My heart raced as I recalled the joyless laughter that had echoed moments ago. What was happening? Just then, I heard a soft patter behind me, a tiny footfall. I spun around, shining my light in the direction of the sound. A flicker of movement caught my eye, but again, it was nothing but darkness. I tightened my grip on the flashlight, forcing myself to take a breath. I was strolling through a minefield of fear, and every step ahead forced me closer to the unknown. Without thinking, I pivoted and bolted back toward the door. I stumbled into the house, slamming it shut with a loud thud. The quietness within felt almost comforting, but the familiar shadows loomed like specters, reminding me of what lies in the dark. Just as I leaned back against the door, my phone buzzed in my pocket. Jumping, I pulled it out, seeing that's the call was coming from my neighbor, Sarah. I answered, her voice bursting through with nervous energy. "Did you see it?" she said, urgency lacing her words. "What are you talking about?" My voice was shaky. "The child. They've been spotted in the neighborhood. The same little boy you spoke about the other day. Everyone's talking about strange happenings and bizarre sightings." Her voice trembled. I felt my stomach drop. "You mean the one who disappeared 10 years ago?" "Yes. There have been reports of him wandering, calling for help. You need to be careful." Is he back?" I stammered, pressing my back against the door as if it could somehow shield me from the truth. Sarah hesitated, the silence stretching between us like a chasm. "I don't know, but people say he's been looking for someone." My pulse quickened. Looking for someone? Who? Why? There are lots of strange stories floating around, but... She paused. "We need to meet. Come to my house." As I looked outside through the window, the shadows felt thicker, more alive. I felt the urge to run back out there, to face what was lurking. Then, a sound broke through the air, a soft creak from the floor above. My heart raced, dread creeping in. "Sarah, I began, but the line suddenly cut off. I was alone again. And that's when I heard it, a childlike voice whispering my name from the darkness above. I glanced up the staircase where the voice seemed to come from. It felt too close, too real. My heart hammered as I slowly stepped forward, aiming the flashlight's beam toward the top of the stairs. "Hello?" I called, but my voice trembled. There was no answer, just the distant echo of my words bouncing back at me. My instincts screamed at me to run, to flee from whatever lay in the shadows above, but my feet felt glued to the ground. Something compelled me to climb those stairs. I reached for the handrail, its coolness sending a shiver through me. With each creak of the steps beneath me, I fought against the urge to retreat. I had to know. I had to face this fear. "Is anyone up there?" I felt foolish for asking. The voice had been so soft, almost delicate. Now it sounded like I was trying to summon a ghost. Finally reaching the top, I turned to face the hallway. A sliver of light came from the bathroom, flickering like a heartbeat. My breath caught in my throat. As I stepped closer, the voice echoed again, clearer this time. "Help me." The sound pulled me forward. I hesitated, glancing back over my shoulder. I could go back and lock myself in the safety of my room, but I felt a strange pull toward the inviting light. The whisper was chilling, yet somehow enchanting. I pushed the bathroom door open just wide enough to peek inside. The light flickered again, casting shadows that danced on the walls. Empty. The room was empty, yet the air felt heavy, charged with something unexplainable. I stepped fully inside, scanning the room. And then I saw it. The mirror. It stood over the sink, full of cloudy reflections, but one side was different. It shimmered like water, capturing my gaze. I took a hesitant step forward, and a cascade of emotions washed over me: fear, curiosity, dread. Suddenly, I heard a chuckle, followed by a soft thud from behind me. I spun around, but there was nothing there. Breathing hard, I turned back to the mirror, and the gleam had intensified. Then shadows began to swirl, forming the outline of a small figure. I took a step back, my breath hitching. "Who are you?" The childlike figure in the mirror steadied and smiled, but it was a smile that sent ice down my spine. "I just want to play." The hairs on my neck stood up as I firmly told myself to leave. Yet curiosity chained me to the spot. Who was this child? What did they want from me? And then, without any warning, the mirror cracked, splintering outward like a spider's web. An unnatural wind rushed through the room, extinguishing the light in a heartbeat. In the sudden darkness, I stumbled backward, feeling a cold presence closing in around me. My heart pounded against my ribs, and panic surged within. The whispers grew louder, a cacophony swirling around me. They were all saying my name. Then I heard something unexpected, a voice, familiar yet twisted. "Did you forget me?" That was it. I had to get out. Turning on my heel, I sprinted down the hall, but as I reached for the stairs, the air thickened. It felt like hands grasping at my legs, trying to pull me back into the abyss of darkness. I could not look back. I had to escape whatever had been unleashed, and as I hit the bottom step, the laughter that echoed from the bathroom sent me reeling even faster toward the front door. But before I could reach the handle, it burst open, revealing a shadowy figure in the frame. The enormity of it plunged my heart into despair. "What do you think you're doing?" I barely recognized the voice, but something sinister twisted in my gut. I froze, staring at the silhouette in the doorway. A figure so tall, so imposing, yet I couldn't bring myself to look up. I felt small, trapped. My instincts screamed at me to bolt, but I stood paralyzed, caught between the weight of fear and the need to escape. "Who are you?" I managed to whisper, my voice barely breaking through the tension in the air. The figure stepped forward, and I could see the sharp outline of a face. It was familiar, yet transformed, a haunting blend of the past and present. "It's been a long time," the voice said, now dripping with malice. I knew that voice. It belonged to someone from my childhood, someone lost. "Nathan," I stammered, disbelief fluttering in my stomach. Part of me wanted to reach out, to recognize the boy I once played with, but the sinister edge to his laughter sent waves of chills through me. "We had such fun together, didn't we?" He tilted his head, a smile spreading across his lips, but it didn't reach his eyes. "You didn't forget, did you?" Memories rushed back, the carefree laughter, the moments of joy we shared as kids in this very town. But they felt tainted now. Something was wrong. "You shouldn't be here," I said, trying to sound braver than I felt. "Oh, but I am here," he grinned, and the shadows seemed to ripple around him. "And I brought friends." Before I could process what he meant, the lights flickered ominously, briefly illuminating the hallway behind him. I caught glimpses of more shadows, figures that were almost human but contorted in grotesque forms. I didn't know how many were there, but I could sense their presence, hunger radiating from them. I backed up, searching for an escape route. My mind raced. I needed to reach the kitchen. It had a back door I could use, but when I darted to the side, Nathan's laughter stopped me cold. Why run? We were just about to play. The shadows seemed to advance, and I took another step back, bumping against the wall. "No, stay away from me." And in the frenzy of movement, I knocked over a lamp. It shattered against the floor, sending a jolt through the air. For a moment, everything went silent. Then, from the other end of the house, I heard it. The soft patter of little feet. Panic tightened around my throat. I turned just in time to see another figure move in the dim light. A girl, no more than 6 or 7, with hollow eyes and a knowing smile. "Join us," she said, her voice eerily sweet, contrasting the terror enclosing me. I felt suffocated by the growing number of entities. I could see them edging closer, their eyes gleaming with a sinister joy. This was wrong. Everything felt wrong. "No!" I shouted, adrenaline coursing through me. I had to get out of there. With the back door in sight, I made a break for it. Hands reached out, brushing against me, but I pushed through. I couldn't look back. I felt desperate, like if I turned I might lose my resolve. As I flung the door open, the sudden gust of night air surged against my skin, but it faded quickly as the shadows lunged for me. That's when I saw it. A glimmer in the darkness, a silver necklace lying just outside. I recognized it. It was mine, the one I lost 10 years ago. Why was it here? In that split second of confusion, the shadows hesitated. It was all the time I needed to step outside and slam the door shut behind me. But whatever was inside would not let me go easily. I could still hear Nathan's voice, echoing in the silence. "You can't escape. This is just the beginning." The night swallowed my scream. I stumbled away from the house, my heart hammering in my chest. The cold air bit at my skin, but it was nothing compared to the chill of fear creeping down my spine. I glanced back, half expecting to see Nathan or the shadows spilling out after me. But the house loomed silently, its dark windows like empty eyes staring into the night. I took a few shaky breaths and forced myself to focus. The necklace. Why was it here? It didn't make sense. I had buried it deep in my childhood memories, a token of simpler times that had slipped through my fingers. I picked it up, feeling its cool metal against my palm. It looked the same, glimmering under the weak moonlight, yet it felt tainted by the encounter. I needed answers. I could feel the weight of the shadows still lurking, waiting for the right moment to pounce. I started walking down the street, each step measured against the fear that crackled at the edges of my mind. The town itself felt different at night, almost suffocating. As I crossed the empty park, fragmented memories flashed through my head. Playgrounds filled with laughter, the calm after summer storms, but also echoes of whispers that sent shivers through me. I quickened my pace, drawn to the familiarity of my old school. The dim light spilling from the windows provided a sense of safety. I stepped inside, pushing the heavy door open. The air was stale, the hallways echoing my footsteps. I needed to find someone who could help, someone who might remember Nathan and the others. I made my way to the library, where the librarian, Mrs. Callahan, used to tell stories that transported us to other worlds. As I entered, I saw her silhouette among the shelves. She looked just as I remembered, with her thick glasses and warm smile. But as she turned, I noticed something was off. Her eyes were distant, almost void of recognition. "Mrs. Callahan," I called, but she didn't respond. I ventured closer, anxiety clawing at me. "It's me, Ava." Her gaze finally shifted, but there was no warmth, just an emptiness that made my skin crawl. "Do you seek the past, child?" she asked softly, her voice barely a whisper. "What do you mean?" I asked, though I was terrified to hear the answer. "The past never truly leaves us," she continued, her smile not reaching her eyes. "It clings closer, waiting for the right moment to return." My stomach dropped. This wasn't about nostalgia. It was something darker, something that felt alive. Then I heard it, a faint rhythm, the patter of little feet growing louder behind me. My heart raced. I turned too quickly and a figure stepped into view. It was the girl from before, the one with hollow eyes. "You found the necklace," she said, her voice sweet yet taunting. "Get away from me," I shouted, but she just giggled, the sound echoing through the library like a cruel melody. I hadn't just escaped the horrors in my house. They were here too, unraveling like threads of a nightmare. Desperation washed over me. I bolted for the exit, heart pounding against my ribcage. Then everything went dark. A cold hand grasped my shoulder and I spun around, only to find myself facing a swirling void. The girl's laughter faded as the shadows engulfed me. I was back in the house, back where it all began. I hadn't escaped at all. I gasped as the light burst back into my surroundings, flooding the room with blinding brightness. Confusion washed over me, and for a moment I struggled to catch my breath. I blinked rapidly, trying to make sense of what just happened, not just where I was, but what awaited me. I stood back in the familiar interior of my home. Nothing felt right. The silence was unnaturally loud, alarm bells ringing in my head. Had it all been a fever dream, a moment of hysteria brought on by exhaustion? Then I noticed it. The mirror in the hallway. It shimmered ominously, reflecting my wide-eyed stare as if beckoning me closer. Summoning my courage, I approached hesitantly. The reflection was distorted. Dark shadows danced behind me, hints of familiar forms subtly shifting, their shapes and faces barely recognizable. I stepped back, a chill racing down my spine. Suddenly, I heard that childlike laugh again. Not just any laughter, but a cacophony of voices intertwined, echoing through the halls. I was being drawn in, pulled closer to the mirror. "Help me," came the soft, sweet plea that haunted my dreams. I shook my head desperately. No, not again. But it ensnared me. The pull too strong. As if under a spell, I reached for the mirror, expecting resistance but finding only a cool surface. I pushed my palm against it, the image rippling as if it were water. Panic surged through me and I pulled back quickly, but unbeknownst to me, something inside had shifted. The shadows slithered closer, forming a tumultuous mass behind the mirror, a mingling of faces that were too familiar yet too far removed. And then, with an unforeseen rush, I stumbled backward, feeling the wall press against my back. "Tell them the truth," a small voice chimed from the horde. "You know what we are." I squeezed my eyes shut, desperately wanting to forget everything I had experienced, wanting to be anywhere but here. But that laughter persisted, growing louder, turning into an overwhelming tumult. I braced myself for what was to come. In a moment of clarity, a single memory emerged from the chaos. A summer day, the sun shining, Nathan smiling, whispering secrets only we could understand. I realized now his joy had been tainted by the weight of secrets that had lingered and warped over time. But amid the shadows, I was the one who could release them. Perhaps that was why I found the necklace in divine timing. "Don't forget us," chimed voices that now resembled familiar cries of children I'd known. Without thinking, I took a step forward, shifting my focus toward the mirror. "I'm not here to abandon you. I'll remember." As the warmth of my words hung in the air, the shadows pressed against the mirror, faces stirred within them, their expressions shifting from malevolence to longing. I felt something unravel inside me, a heavy shroud lifting, releasing the tension that bound us. "Help us!" The chorus swelled, and in that moment of vulnerability, I felt the energy surge through me. It cycled through my veins, away from the jagged edges of the past, illuminating paths I didn't know were there. As it swelled, the mirror darkened, and for a fleeting instant, all that had haunted me seemed poised at the edge of release. "Enough," I cried, thrusting my hands forward against the mirror's surface. The world around me shattered, the colors fracturing in every direction. The voices fell silent, an absence almost comforting. And just as quickly I found myself back outside, standing on the sidewalk of my neighborhood. The stillness enveloped me, and the night air felt blessedly cool against my skin. I blinked into the calming darkness. The house was just up the street, but everything felt different somehow. I took a few tentative steps. Goosebumps danced along my arms as I glanced back at the house. Hollow and quiet, it only hinted at memories that hovered just beneath the surface. The laughter had faded, yet I couldn't shake the feeling of being connected to something profoundly deeper. But I was safe, for now. I had escaped, As I headed toward the distance, the shadows clung to the edges of my perception, still there, still waiting. And even as I moved forward, I couldn't ignore that lingering whisper of the past, the question that remained unanswered. Would I ever truly break free? And one thing I knew for sure, I would always carry the echoes of their laughter with me. I moved to a different city after that. Sometimes I wonder if that house still stands, if those children still roam. I'm far from the past, but I can't quite shake the feeling that somewhere in the shadows, they're still waiting, clinging to the memories we had together. But mostly I try not to think about it.